I didn't love your light. I loved how you carried your shadows without apology. You weren't loud, but your presence silenced everything around me. I didn't fall for your confidence. I fell for the moments you doubted everything but still showed up. You didn't shine. You absorbed the room, then handed me clarity. I loved the way you broke rules quietly, like it was art. You weren't graceful, you were raw, and I worshipped your mess. You didn't wear love, you bled it. I fell for the way your pain looked like poetry only I could read. You didn't try to protect me from you. You let me walk straight into the fire. I didn't fall for your smile. I fell for your haunted eyes. You weren't gentle. You were honest. And that wrecked me. I didn't love your touch. I loved the storm behind it. You didn't try to be rare. You simply never fit the mold. You made emptiness feel sacred. I didn't fall in love. I drowned and didn't want air. You didn't explain your silence. You let it speak louder than screams. You weren't designed for peace. You were built to stir souls. I didn't love your presence. I loved how it made me question mine. You didn't try to fix the world. You made me feel less broken in it. I fell for the part of you you hide from mirrors. You weren't the calm. You were the calm after the chaos. I didn't need you to speak. Your silence undressed me. You didn't chase connection. You created it without permission. I loved how you healed by refusing to pretend. You weren't perfect. You were painfully, beautifully you. I didn't fall for your love. I fell for your honesty. You weren't safe. You were sacred. I didn't love what you gave me. I loved what you risked. You didn't hold my hand. You held my story. You didn't complete me. You undid me. I didn't fall for the version you showed. I fell for the one you feared. You didn't ask for space. You were space. I loved how you made regret look holy. You weren't the answer. You were the question that made me feel alive. You didn't let me in. You unlocked something in me. I didn't need forever. I needed that one soul-deep moment with you. You weren't safe, but you felt like truth. I loved how your chaos mirrored mine. You didn't pretend to be okay. You dared to fall apart in front of me. You didn't promise peace. You offered presence. I fell for the part of you no one else clapped for. You didn't pretend to be strong. You were just still standing. I didn't love your light. I loved your survival. You weren't trying to be found. You were waiting to be seen. I loved how you didn't need fixing. You needed loving. You didn't hide your past. You let it walk beside you. I didn't fall in love. I collided into your soul. You weren't the storm. You were the stillness after. I didn't want to own you. I wanted to understand you. You didn't beg to be remembered. You haunted me instead. You didn't offer safety. You offered truth. I fell in love with the silence between your breaths. You weren't made for normal. You were built for awe. I didn't choose you. My ache did. You didn't flirt. You revealed. I loved the way your voice sounded like a memory I never lived. You didn't try to be magic. You just were. I didn't fall for your charm. I fell for your mystery. You didn't need to be loved. You needed to be witnessed. I fell for how you saw through me and stayed. You didn't beg for loyalty. You embodied it. I loved how your wounds didn't beg for pity. You weren't the loudest. You were the one I couldn't ignore. You didn't ask me to stay, but my soul did. I didn't fall for your looks. I fell for the storm in your silence. You didn't make me whole. You made me honest. I loved how you didn't need a crown to feel royal. You weren't the end. I was just too scared of a beginning. I didn't want to fix you. I wanted to feel you. You didn't give me love. You showed me my hunger for it. I fell for the way you handled being misunderstood. You didn't need loud love. You needed real. You weren't sweet. You were sacredly brutal. I didn't fall in love. I remembered something old in you. You didn't come to stay. You came to awaken. I loved how your sadness smelled like honesty. You didn't break me. You showed me where I was already cracked. You weren't perfect. You were permission. I didn't fall for your words. I fell for your refusal to use them. You didn't need love. You were love in its rawest form. My dear, I fell for the way you never needed the world to notice you to shine. You made silence feel like a language only we spoke. I didn't fall for your face. I fell for the war behind your smile. Your mind wasn't loud, but it echoed through me like thunder. I fell for how you made broken things feel sacred. You didn't chase attention. You made peace magnetic. You looked at me like I was a question you already knew the answer to. You didn't try to impress. You simply were, and that destroyed me. I fell in love with how you stayed soft in a cruel world. You didn't love loudly, but you made every whisper feel like forever. You weren't beautiful in the usual way. You were unforgettable in the quietest one. I fell for how your pain had poetry in it. You didn't light up a room. You made shadows feel like home. You didn't belong to anyone. You belonged to mystery. Your chaos was different. It calmed me. I loved how your anger still smelled like protection. You were raw truth dressed in gentle silence. You didn't try to fix people. You simply saw them whole. I didn't choose you. My soul recognized you. You didn't talk much. but your silence broke me open. Your wounds didn't scare me, they taught me reverence. I loved how you saw through everything and still chose tenderness. You weren't the loudest in the room, you were the most felt. I fell for your contradictions, not your consistency. You didn't beg to be understood. You just existed like a prayer. You made pain feel like poetry with your presence. You didn't speak often, but when you did, I listened with my bones. You didn't follow the crowd, you haunted it. I loved how you wore solitude like royalty. You didn't explain yourself, and that was your power. Your scars whispered louder than most people scream. I fell for your wild honesty. It ruined all lies. You weren't perfect. You were painfully, beautifully real. You didn't hold back your weirdness, and that made me fall deeper. I loved the parts of you the world made you hide. You weren't trying to be liked. You were trying to be free. You didn't sparkle. You burned slowly, like a ritual. I fell for your emotional depth, not your charm. You didn't decorate your pain. You bled truth. You weren't sweet. You were sacred. I loved how you never asked for approval, but always deserved it. You made destruction look like transformation. You weren't made for comfort. You were made to awaken people. You didn't fall in love. You invited souls into your fire. Your eyes didn't lie. That's what scared and saved me. You weren't soft. You were storm tender. I didn't love you for being kind. I loved you for being kind anyway. You didn't save me. You reminded me I wasn't broken. I fell in love with your unspoken forgiveness. You weren't just deep, you were bottomless. I didn't need to understand you. I just wanted to keep discovering you. You made pain feel like a language only we shared. You didn't try to make me happy. You made me feel. You weren't looking for love. You were becoming it. You weren't cold. You were carefully guarded. I fell for the way you survived things you never spoke of. Your silence taught me more than any book. You didn't protect your heart. You hid a galaxy inside it. You were never afraid to feel deeply, and that terrified me. I didn't fall for your smile. I fell for what you hid behind it. You didn't flirt. You felt, and that was rare. I loved how your weirdness didn't apologize. You didn't need fixing. You needed witnessing. You didn't beg to be loved. You dared to be you. You didn't soften your truth. You sharpened mine. You loved like a secret, powerful, quiet, dangerous. I didn't fall for your story. I fell for your silence between sentences. You didn't try to shine. You simply refused to dim. I loved how your chaos still made sense to me. You weren't trying to be rare. You just were. I didn't need proof of your love. I needed to survive it. You didn't promise forever. You gave me the now fully. I fell in love with the version of you no one clapped for. You didn't chase meaning, you embodied it. I didn't love your beauty. I loved your audacity. You were raw, real, and unapologetically flawed, and I adored you for it. You made pain feel holy and love feel dangerous. I didn't fall for your light. I fell for the way you handled the dark. You weren't trying to be anyone. You were already too much. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. I didn't love you for being strong. I loved how you cried in secret. You didn't beg for love. You became it in silence. I fell for your flaws. They felt more honest than perfection. You didn't impress, you impacted. I loved how your silence haunted every room you left. You didn't smile often, but when you did, time paused. You weren't trying to be noticed. You were unforgettable by accident. I fell for the fire you buried under your calm.